Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Bryan, and in this continuation of our RBD series, I figured we'd go ahead and do an actual shot here, or at least part of a shot, with just the RBD. I have this rig that I downloaded from AccuRig. You can find out more about them by clicking the link in the description. We're gonna go and just destroy the ground here. Now, I don't have a ground plane yet, and I want to make some tweaks to the animation, but I have a very short animation here. And a couple things that I want to do is have this start with him already in the air and go a lot faster where he hits the ground. So we'll just go ahead and start with a retime. And I'm going to say 2. Let's see what that looks like. He's going to go really fast. And then he freezes in the air because I forgot to set my stuff here. So we'll say F start. And then we'll say $F end. And then let's see what that looks like. Cool. So I want to kind of take him from like right here. So frame 57 to the ground. So let's go ahead and do a time shift now. And we could say $F plus 57. So he's already in the air. And let's go ahead and transform him. So wherever he hits the ground, I want him to hit pretty close to the origin. So we're on the x-axis, or I'm sorry, the z-axis here. Let's just go back. It looks like about 7. So we'll say -7.5. All right, that looks pretty good. Pretty close to the origin. Doesn't have to be perfect. I just want it there. Just going to make our lives easier. So he's going to hit roughly around frame 16. And we'll just do a quick, I say 100 frame simulation here. Yeah, we're going to take what we've learned on the channel so far in this series, and we're going to kind of put it into application while I introduce you guys to a few more techniques that I use in the industry. So let's go ahead and set this up. Null, out, character. And I'll hit C, color this black. And then we'll come here. We'll color this green for now. We'll call this character 01. It's totally fine. And let's go ahead and get the ground going. Oop, I made a mistake. I wonder if it's because I did this. So let's fix this. I'm pretty sure this is what caused it. Yeah. All right. So we got to fix this real quick. So we'll come to the retime. Let's delete channels, and let's just delete channels. So we have 240 now. Post hold, pre hold is totally fine. We could probably do pre extend. Then let's go to 100 and see if that fixes the issue. Yeah, that fixed the issue. It was just because when I do the 0 to 100, it's fixing it from 1 to 100 here because of the expressions I use. So I just had to come up here and delete the channels, and that fixed that problem. Cool. And we'll do a simple ground fracture here. I'm going to start with a geode. We'll call this ground. And I'll just start with a box. And let's go ahead and copy parameter here, center, paste relative reference, divided by 2. But I want this actually to be below the ground. So we'll say negative, negative, and now it's below. So there he is. And let's go and say 5 by 5. Maybe we'll go 10 by 10. And we'll say 0.25. Okay, we have the ground here, and we're just going to create some shocks coming off. So let's go ahead and go to VDB from polygons. So we'll go 0.05 here, and then we'll convert it back. Polygons, just to create some resolution here. And then let's go ahead and create a sphere, and we're going to use this as our cutting object. So let's just go ahead and create, oh, not that big, polygon, and we'll say 20, 40, 50. Okay, and then I'll just throw on an attribute noise, and this is going to be P. And we'll go ahead and do sparse or a Worley cellular, and let's just increase the size here and amplitude. Just do from there. Although you'll notice it gets transformed off to the side. When we could fix that as, say, a noise along vector. And so it should stay towards the middle now. Now it's adding to those vectors. And we're just going to create some noise. And we'll do a Boolean fracture. So take a second there. We have this nice fracture. We'll do a split. And let's press 9. And I'm going to go down into the attributes. We'll go to the name, and we'll split by name. There we go. Cool. So now I have a nice starting point for my fracture. And let's go ahead and find where he's actually hitting. So let's do an add here. We'll just, whoop, that didn't work. Sorry. Hit enter. And we'll just kind of move this into position right about here, right where his hand hits. And that'll be the start of our fracture. So there we go. Hide other objects. Let's go ahead and change our background here to dark gray. I'll go ahead and hide that. And we have a point there now. So you can see it, 0.0. So the next thing that we want to do is on this split. Let's go ahead and set this up. We'll go null. We'll call this out internal fracture. And I'll copy this over. We'll call this out edge fracture. This center right here. Start with just a simple ISO offset like we have on this channel so far. We'll say 100. And we'll scatter this. Okay. Turn off relax iterations for now. We'll stay at 1,000. It's going to be pretty high. In fact, actually, no, let's go down to 500 for now. We'll probably procedurally change this later. And now let's do a wrangle. We'll say find distance, and we'll just say point. Well, we'll say vector center. Come on. Center equals point. Second input, so that's number 1. And we're going to grab the position of that first point, which is 0. Cool. And let's find the distance between that point and all other points here. We're going to say float dist equals distance center to at P. And if we take a look, we won't be able to see anything yet, but let's run it at dist equals dist, just so we can check that attribute here. We'll see we got a dist here. And if I throw a visualizer, so we'll create a visualizer here by hitting the plus icon, and we'll do color, and I'll throw dist, and we'll call this distance. Oops. Distance, and let's take a look at that. Okay, and I want to run this ramp from attribute. Let's do infrared. Cool. And you can see what's going on here. As they get the farthest points here are closer to red. So if we do a min-max here, you'll see it a little bit better. So we'll go there. Okay, and you'll see the farthest ones are about 6 away, and the closer ones are at 0. And we can run a couple of maps off of this later. We'll just use velocity because then I can create a visualizer. So we'll say v at v equals at P minus center. And if I throw this into a visualizer, so we'll create one. Create a new one. Marker. We'll run vector so we can see the direction. I'm going to run that through V. We'll call this velocity. And we'll call this velocity. You'll see that they're pointing away. If I do center minus at P, we should get them pointing towards that center. And that's what we want. So we want some of these points to come in, but not all of them. But we want a lot more breaks essentially down here, and the force of those breaks to kind of funnel out. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can manipulate this. And instead of vector, I'm going to create a new one here called v at displace. This displace as if it's an attribute. So once we're ready, we'll go ahead and move this into an actual variable. So move that up there. Okay. And what we'll say is say at P plus equals displace. Sorry, at v at displace. And there you go. Okay, all of our points are now to the center. But we can multiply this now by a ramp based off of that distance attribute that we created here. So we know it's roughly around 6. So we could say times channel ramp distance, okay, fit dist 0 to channel float max. We know it's 6, but we're going to put it in manually, and we need to fit that 0 to 1. Close that up. Okay. And if I invert this, you'll see what happens. Okay. Oh, I need to actually add in that max. We'll say 6. You'll see what happens. So more, or I can have less here. Or what we can do is we can switch this to rounds. And I just basically want to have more points in the center and less points at the end. So, or we could create really cool patterns too, by the way. So for me, I'm going to go back to that linear one, and we'll work off of this. Just start a nice little base here. Kind of folding into each other. Still want to have some points left out. Okay, so here's the original scatter. Right, if we push that out, now they're being shifted towards the middle. Okay. Now the problem though with this is now I have all these points towards the center and starting to concentrate towards the center. So just be aware of that. Now now we're not going to have any pieces out there. But let's run this through and see what that fracture looks like. So I'm just going to do a quick Voronoi fracture. So Voronoi points into there. Let's go grab the original geo. Let's see what we get. And you can see exactly what's happening. We get these really big pieces on the end, but with these nice little pieces where he lands. And I'm going to be honest with you, this actually looks really, really good. I like what we have here. But we want to create a map here on how this breaks. So if we come down to Ghost, this is what it's going to look like. Boom, right there. So let's create that map. So from this one, I'm going to do a null. And we'll call this out RBD geo. And between this null, let's go ahead and do a assemble. Now, I haven't been paying attention to my names that much, but I want to switch this one to append. And we'll do underscore piece underscore. And we should come back up to the Boolean at this point. And we'll call this main underscore. And then under the split, we need to go to main underscore 0 because that's going to be the new name. Or not, actually. Let's see. Oh, there you go. So that's the new name, right? So attribute, name, there it is, main 0. And I should have a main 1 as well, but that's split off at this point. Leaving us with pieces, names, main 0, piece 0. And then in the assemble, since I spent all that extra work renaming my pieces, I don't need to create a new name attribute. We just need to pack. When we do that, it'll move it here. Cool. Next step is set this up for fracture, but here's something new on the channel that is going to keep these pieces inactive, and then we will activate them, and then we'll create a shockwave of force across, and that will be my RBD break. So let's do that. I'm going to do an add down here, just so I can see this. We'll delete. So we have all of our pieces. And then we have this add right here that we can use. So let's go ahead and just create a color attribute here. So we'll color this one black. Come on over here. Color this point here white. And use an attribute transfer here. And by default, this attribute transfer will transfer all the attributes over. But I only want this much here, maybe even less. We'll say 0.1, 0.12, 3. That's good. Cool. So we have the start right there. And if I go to Ghost, you'll see that should be where he lands, right? Because we set that point there. Let's move this down. Next step is that create an attribute based on this color. And so let's do an attribute wrangle, and we'll say set temperature. You're probably wondering why it says set temperature. We're going to run an infection solver over this, and the infection solver that's built into Houdini starts with temperature. So we're going to say if at cd dot r, we'll just pick r, is greater than a certain amount, we'll say 0.5, f at temperature equals 1. So if I come here to the geometry spreadsheet, I have some temperature values, but only when they're white. To kind of see this into play, I will go ahead and show you now with a visualizer. There you go, temperature. That looks great. Okay. The thing I also want to do is I want to initialize my fuel. So we'll say f at fuel equals 1. Let's run this through a pyro source spread. And let's just look at the total burn, and I'm going to hit play. Nothing's going to happen. Okay. In fact, let me reset the simulation. Let's go and make sure my visualizers are working. The injection rate here, turn it off to 0 because we already have our fuel. And let's say ignition temperature is 0.1, burn rate is 1, and we'll say search radius is 1. Let's see what we get. Whoa, that's too fast. And there you go. That looks pretty good, right? And that's kind of what we want, really fast. And it doesn't really make it that far because my cooling rate's pretty high. So let's say 0.1 on the cooling rate, and it should go all the way to the end. We got like 1 point or 2 points over here. Now, having a few pieces along the edge not activate will be amazing for us. Okay. Now, we have this map here. Now, we're doing only a few points. However, we want to generate an actual frozen time-independent map off this. Easiest way to do this is to then come in here and do a time shift. So we'll do a time shift. And let's just find where this ends. I like probably right about there. So frame 15. Delete that channel. Now we're frozen on frame 15. If I come to the geometry spreadsheet and we just look at our total burn attribute here, you'll see what happens. We have 1 and we have 0 here. So I realized you need to actually come back here to the injection rate, turn this 1. It actually has to input fuel every single time. So we'll just leave it like that. That way the total burn keeps going up. And then we come down here, the time shift. Let's double check, make sure the time shift is still what we want. So here's the pyro source spread. And by 15, had a couple points here that aren't fully burnt yet. But time shift on frame 15. And now if you come down and we look at that total burn, you'll notice that I have a maximum value of about 4.26, and we still have some zeros here. So we can write an expression here that creates a map that's time independent. So let's do an attribute wrangle, and we'll say f at release equals fit at total burn 0 to that maximum number that we saw. So if we come over here, you'll see the maximum number is 4.26. So let's say 4.26, 0 to 1. And now what we could do is run a new visualizer. So let's get rid of that total burn visualizer. Let's create this one to a color. We'll call it release. And we'll call this release, release. And we'll call this ramp from attribute. Let's do min max 0 to 1. And let's run an infrared so you can see this better. And there you go. So where points right here are pretty light blue to blue or purple, they'll release later. Where they're red, they'll release first. And we can run an attribute through this. And now we're time independent. So I can drop a simple file cache node. Turn off the time dependent cache. Let's go ahead and name this here release map. And let's just turn off hard and save name, and we'll save the disk. Cool. So now I have this release map that I can use to release on time. Now you can release on frame 1, or you know what? Whenever she or he hits, we can just release. So boom, we can release right there on frame, I say 13 or 14. We'll say 14. Okay, maybe 13. We'll see how it works. So now what I can do is do an attribute wrangle here. Let's run these through the name, and we can say, let's just move this map over. So this release will say float release equals point 1 second input release. And we could say this over at point pt num. But we can use this now to control the active attribute. And we could say if release is greater than channel float thresh, let's go ahead and do a couple here. I at active equals 1. We also need to initialize our active attribute. So say I at active equals 0. And to see this, we could do an RBD configure here. And this will allow us to visualize our active attribute. So there it is. Now, unfortunately, everything is above 0. So we're going to start at 1. And let's go ahead and set a keyframe here. By the way, if you have this issue where you want to work on this node, but you want to see this node, come up here, right click, and then go to show display operator. And now I can work off of this. And there we go. So let's do it. So we'll say, hey, when you land on frame, let's do 13. Set that keyframe. We'll come over here and I'll hit control to get rid of that keyframe. So and then let's just say, hey, this got to be pretty fast, right? So we'll say 0. Boom. It looks pretty cool. Now the animation curve we can play with as well and make this a little bit more explosive. So we'll say there. Nope. Yeah, it looks better. It kind of slows down at the end. Right? Maybe one more frame. And let's go see what this looks like in simulation now. So I'll run this into a .NET and call this RBD sim. Dive in, we'll do a rigid body solver, gravity. Let's create a ground plane here. Plane, make that the first input. I'm going to lower the ground plane here to, let's say, -2. For now, this will make sense why later. Let's go ahead and do RBD packed object. And we just navigate to that geo out, RBD geo that we created. There it is. Let's go to the ground plane. I don't want to see it. We'll call this RBD geo so that we just have a name for it. Let's go ahead and create active objects, but I want to override those attributes with the active, animated, and deforming. We technically don't have these two, but we'll leave them for now. Let's just hit play and see what happens, and then boom, there you go. All right, it's a little low. Let's say 0.5. It needs to be -0.5. There we go. Cool, that's what we want. And then in the object merge here, let's only put in the RBD geo. There you go. Take a look at that. Now, there's no real forces with this. They're just going to fall straight down. And you can see like some of these pieces didn't even activate properly, but they're just going to fall straight down. But we can actually create a shockwave coming out of this. And the pieces will move. And we can actually use just that same map that we created here and then split that off and create a velocity map. So let's do that. And we could slow down. And this is why we have just a time-independent cache now. This is a very useful trick. But we could slow this down. We could say, okay, this is releasing too fast. And we go to the animation editor and say, hey, yeah, this is releasing too fast. So we'll just say something like that. And now your fracture is completely procedural to time. How cool is that? Okay, let's add that velocity map I just bragged about. So what we'll do is we'll add another add here and delete the geometry. But this geometry will have those attributes on it. So if I come over here, you'll see it has that active. If I come over here, you'll see that it doesn't have the release. That's because I used it as a variable, and that stays within this wrangle. But we have the active attribute that we can use at our disposal. But in our case, I don't necessarily want the active attribute. I really, really want to create my own velocity. So to do that, let's go ahead and just work off of this cache that we have instead of the actual activate. And on this tree, we won't have an active attribute, but we have so much that we have here that's kind of a waste for this map. So I'm going to do an attribute delete, and let's go ahead and get rid of a few things. So I'm going to just keep what I want, which is really just the release. I really only want the release map, and so we'll delete non-selected. Let's go ahead and just create some velocities here. Easiest way to do that is just to initialize a attribute wrangle and say v at v equals channel vector velocity. Let's call it direction. And then we'll do a v at v times equals channel float velocity mag for magnitude. Promote those, and we'll say, hey, we want to go up. And we'll say 1 here, and let's go ahead and look at those velocities. We created them earlier. And we'll work with this for right now. We may add some noise later. But I want to activate these as that release attribute comes through. So I can just go and grab this whole expression line here rather than reinventing the wheel. And this time I actually will say at release since we're going to use the attribute. And instead of active, we're going to say v at v times equals 1. Okay, actually, let's say 0, just so we can see it. Okay, so 0. And now, let's promote this up. And you'll see what's going to happen. 0, and I actually want this to start from the middle. I have to switch this to less than, and now I can have it like radiate out. Okay, so what's going on? I have this initial velocity, but now they're turned off if they are below that threshold, which is 1. By the way, this is only one way to do it. What we could do is take all of this and put it inside of here. And in fact, you know what? Why don't we do that? So it's easier for us to visualize it. And if you're just learning this, it's going to make your life so much easier. So we'll hit paste, and I'll hit tab, and let's get rid of this for now. And now, there you go. Okay, so we can go back to the greater than. And so there you go. Same thing, right? Same process. Frame 13, we'll go to 14 and set a keyframe here. And then let's go to frame 30. Let's set 0. Right? And we can go to the animation editor and make this very explosive. Cool. Comes out. But I want these to kind of drop out over time. So maybe we'll go to like frame 19, keyframe the velocity magnitude, and then frame 36, and we'll say 0. See what that looks like. Now, that's one way to do it. But instead of doing that, why don't we just turn them off 1 frame offset from here? So I'm just going to copy all of this. And let's get rid of all of this. And we'll say v at v equals 0. I made a mistake. Let's go ahead and there we go. And so now we don't have any velocities because this is using the same thresh. So we'll call this off thresh. Promote that. Let's say 1 here. If I lower it, you'll see that they go off. So we could just actually say, hey, at frame 17, key that, and then we'll go right after, say 0. And now, let's lower it. There we go. I have this little shock wave going out. Using just this singular map that I have. Hopefully you guys understand the power behind this map I created, this heat map. It's going to do so much wonders for you. All right, let's do null. Let's do out, vel. Okay. And let's go import that into our scene. And we know how to do this from our last project using RBD forces. So let's do a pop-up, go to the inputs, SOP. Let's go navigate to that out vel. And let's go ahead and just take the V from this and add it to the original. So let's source in that PC open file P. Let's filter out PC filter velocity. Add that in. Go to that velocity right there. Okay. Let's go and just promote these up. I might need to do that. And let's just see if we get what we want. Perfect. Look at that, right? Now we could just add some noise to the velocity, which is what's lacking. But let's take a look what this looks like with our character. That looks cool. All right, I want to turn him into a collider. So let's go up here to the character now. First way is just to use a collision source. I know it's for flip, but it's just a good hack and a good way to get this done. Another way to do this is just to simply bring in the character as a static object. So let's just do that. In here, create a static object, and I will merge him here. Call this character. Let's go navigate to that saw path, out character. There he is. And if I hit play, nothing's going to happen. So let's go ahead and use deforming geometry. And there he is. Let's just look at him for right now. Go to the collisions. And I want to use surface collision. So we'll go to surface. And there you go. He turns green. So you can see that he actually has some collision on him. Pretty low res, so I don't really care too much about him. We'll turn off the display. And let's see if that has an effect on our sim. And there you go. You can see now those pieces are not going up anywhere near as fast. Let's go add some noise to that velocity. So we'll just come over here. And let's go ahead and just say attribute noise vector. Or don't even need to use a right angle. Now this is set to add. So I want to switch this to multiply because I want to multiply these forces here. And we want to do min max. So we want 0 to 1. I feel like we need more velocity. So let's go to the velocity magnitude. We'll say 2. Now you'll notice we run into an issue where he is kind of right here and the ground plane is too low. So I want to set this up to where he kind of looks like he's landing on the ground plane. So let's dive in here. Maybe we'll move the ground plane up to the bottom of where our box is. So let's go to our box. Copy this one. So we can copy parameter here and see if we can use the full diameter of this. And we'll hit paste relative reference, and I'll hit negative. And we'll see what it looks like. And the pieces come down. And there you go. Now it kind of looks like he's in the mix. Right now, all of our velocities are going up directly. So what we can do is come and take this add. I'm just going to go ahead and copy it, move it down here, and we can make a couple changes to our velocity here. So I'm going to switch this to plus. It's not going to make any changes to what direction the velocities are in. And using that same process that I did earlier with the position, where is it? Right here. So this displace right here, center minus P, we could do that with the velocity. So we'll just grab that. And we'll say V at V equals center minus P, but we need to initialize that center. So we'll say vector center equals point, second input, 1, P, just 0.0, because there's only 1 point with this add, and there we go. But it's actually going the wrong way. So let's go ahead and say plus P. Now they're going out. Okay. And we could play with this and say, hey, we want to go up a little bit. We can do a trick here. So I can offset this center a little bit. So we'll say plus channel vector offset. Promote that up. We need to reorganize this, but that's okay. Just a little tutorial. And let's go right there. And then this offset, I could play with it and say, hey, we want to go up a little bit. Maybe we'll lower the magnitude of 1.1. This is what that looks like now. And we'll go to 1. Up. 0.67 maybe. Okay, I think that's going to work. There we go. And now the points. And now they go out. I guess the last thing to do here would be to add debris. But you could do that. We'll probably do that in like another video at another time. One thing we can do, though, is increase the resolution here. And to do that, I can just take this one now, and we'll do a RBD interior detail, exploded view. Keep in mind, these will have the same name. And then in this interior view, a detail, let's say detail size 0.1 and 0.05. Cool. This is exponential, so be careful with this. And we'll just add some detail here. So we'll say 0.3. That's crazy. Let's say 0.1 again. 0.15. All right, I can live with that. So a little bit of craziness. Okay. And we'll do assemble. Or what we can actually do is just copy the assemble here. And then we'll do a transform pieces. And let's do the high res. Now your high res pieces are the ones that are fraction. Of course, I did that really fast. You can probably spend a lot better time actually designing the noise here. In fact, we'll go back. And let's do Warley. Cellular. Roughness. Yeah. And again, you guys could just have a lot of fun with this. So kind of putting everything that we have learned together at this point. If we just want to go ahead and merge the original here, do an object merge. And this is what it looks like. Fun little effect that you can do really quickly, which is simple RBD processes. Nothing different that we haven't seen already on the channel. I just added a few activate, deactivate processes here that you may find very beneficial on your next shot. Hopefully you guys found this enjoyable. Let me know what you guys think. In the next couple of videos, we'll probably start going much further than this in our destruction series here in Houdini. I am trying to make more videos now. I know it's been some time with a long hiatus, but I am working on a lot of cool things that you will find here on YouTube and on our website at bryanholt.media. Also, don't forget, I have a Discord server up. You can come and check out the Discord server right now. We have lots of discussions happening where we talk through different visual effects shots, different pieces that you'll be working on. And you can find a robust network here of industry artists, students, as well as hobbyists. And you can just get the feedback and get to know people within the industry. And once again, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. And remember, always be creative.